Hari Om, Namo Namaha, Ajam Nirvikalpam Nirakaram Ekam Niranandam Anandam Advaita Rupurnam Param Nirgunam Nirvishesham Niriham Parabrahma Rūpam Ganesham Bhajema Parabrahma Rūpam Ganesham Bhajema. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Welcome to the 81st session of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. Today our team will be presenting verses 16 to 20 of chapter 11 Vishwa Darshana Yoga. Today's session will be moderated by Dr. Ravi Shankar. Dr. Ravi Shankar is not only a competent and well-established orthopedic surgeon, but he is equally established in his spiritual progress. We look up to him, the way he conducts himself. Dear sir, we look forward to your learnings and insights of this Shastric knowledge. Welcome to your new role on Param Vedanta. We start first with a quick recap of last session by Dr. Satya, covering verses 11 to 15 of chapter 11.
Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. We have seen so far that to have Vishwarupa Darshanam, we require two things. One is physical eye, which looks at the universe as materialistic, and the other is attitude or perspective. This attitudinal change requires Vedantic teaching, which comes from appropriate knowledge and purity of mind. Appropriate knowledge that the Lord alone manifests as creation, and the mind which is free from ahankara mamakara. This brings about removal of obstacle for divine appreciation. This enlightened intellect and pure mind put together is called Divya Chakshu. With this Divya Chakshu, subjective Jiva Drishti, which says world is misery, becomes objective Vismaya Drishti, which says world is wonderful. When I get laddu from the temple, the physical eyes report it as food item. But since I looked upon it as prasada coming from Lord, there is perspective change by which it gets sacredness by this Divya Chakshu. Divya Rūpam was already in front of Arjuna, but what he was lacking was Divya Chakshu. And when the Lord blessed him with this, there is transformation. When Arjuna got such a vision, the impact was so much that he is dumbfounded. There is silence for a few minutes. At that time, Sanjaya gives the description of Vishwarupa as seen by Arjuna. In verse 11.11, Sanjaya says, next slide, Krishna revealed that brilliant, limitless cosmic form with faces in all directions, wearing divine garlands and garments, anointed with divine perfumes and full of wonders. Here, Sanjaya elaborates upon Sri Krishna's divine universal form with the words like Aneka and Ananta. The entire creation is the body of God's cosmic form, and therefore it contains countless faces, eyes, mouths, shapes, colors, and forms. The cosmic form of God revealed unusual wonders, marvels, and miracles in all directions, transcending the limitation of space and time, and thus it could aptly be termed as wondrous. In verse 11.12, Sanjaya says, if the brilliance of 1,000 suns were to rise up simultaneously in the sky, that will be comparable to brilliance of the great Lord. Here, he describes the effulgence of the universal form. To give us an idea of its dazzling radiance, he compares it to thousands of blazing suns simultaneously. The simile of 1,000 suns expressed by Sanjaya's perception is that the splendor of the cosmic form has no parallel. In verse 11.13, he says, there in the body of Lords, Arjuna saw at that time the entire universe with its manifold divisions placed together. Here, Sanjaya continues with his description that Arjuna saw the entire universe resting upon one infinite body of the Lord. He beheld the entire creation of the universe with their manifold divisions of galaxies and planetary systems in the fraction of body of a Supreme Lord. We need to remember here that Vedantic technical aspects are symbolically represented in Vishwarupa Darshana. Verse 11.14, Sanjaya says that Arjuna, who was wonderstruck and thrilled, saluted the Lord with his head bent low and spoke with folded palms. We see here that because of change of perspective, Arjuna has had a great impact. He was struck by wonder not because he is seeing an extraordinary sight, but because he has a new perspective towards an ordinary thing. It is not extraordinary sight, but it is extraordinary attitude towards the ordinary world. Arjuna developed this great reverence as his hair began standing on the end. Bowing down with folded hands, he utters the words that come up in the next verse. Verse 11.15 onwards, Arjuna takes over and he describes Vishwarupa as seen by him. He says, O Shri Krishna, I behold within your body all the gods and hosts of different beings. I see Brahma seated on the lotus flower. I see Shiva. I see all sages and all the celestial serpents. Here, Arjuna exclaimed that he was beholding multitudes of beings from all the three worlds, including the gods of celestial abode. With this particular shloka, there is change in meter. And this very change in tune is a method of capturing the attention. So, we have seen Sanjaya, next slide, narrating to Dhritarashtra the incredible sight of divine spectacle from verse 9 to 14. Thereon, we see how Arjuna is overwhelmed with emotions from verse 15 to 31. As we further see, Arjuna goes through stages of emotion. Ascharyam to start with, followed by Bhayam and Bhakti. We continue today with Arjuna's expression of wonderment. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Satyana, for a nice presentation and highlighting that Arjuna's complete description of Bhakti started by the 15th verse. And before that, Sanjaya was telling us what Arjuna was seeing and what Arjuna was thinking during the battlefield. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We begin today's session with this little information that we all have, that an ant could lift weights more than 20 times its body weight. And we see this slide showing this school of fishes. They're all together, colorful, but they come together to prevent an enemy. There's one little fish which has its fins and all the tail spread apart to protect itself. When we talk about roses, we always look at red roses, but we should also note that there is a moon or a blue rose. They were bits of pieces of information of science, but did we ever wonder about it? We never saw them, but when we saw these pictures of the dinosaurs and all their animals, it was a description which makes us wonder even today. We look at garbage, we see filth, and we literally close our noses even though it is on the slide. We go to the mountains, and the mountains can crush our ego due to its sheer vastness. We look at the ocean, the Pacific maybe, and we just can't imagine the vastness of the ocean or the mountains. If we're able to see a picture like this on top of a mountain when it is absolutely dark with a clear sky, and you see this Milky Way, it is astonishment. Back to that little ant, which has built a huge anthill as big as a tree, and it has got this wonderful structure inside. Now is the time to really wonder. It's not a piece of information anymore. Is it enough to have a thought of what we see as a vision? It is a change in attitude that is very important. And that is the highlight of today's 5 verses. Should we compare ourselves with such Sanjaya and Arjuna, we realize that some Jaya, he had one ahamkara and mamakara. And so he got the Divya Chakshu right from Vyasacharya. Arjuna probably still has some of it. Raga, Dvesha, ahamkara, mamakara. And now, by the 11th chapter, he's getting into wonderment. Where are we? It's a point for us to do a self-assessment. If we hold the Shastra and the Guru Shastra Vichara, it's not a clear yes or no, but it's a gray area. It's an area where we have some raga, more of dvesha, or it could be more of ahankara, less of mamakara. Unless we clear this, we will not be able to progress in the path that we have taken. In addition to the beautiful Vishwarupa temple in Kurukshetra, are so many temples as shown in this slide in the North India. They are all symbols. They're all given to give us some understanding of what a Vishwarupa may be. The mind does not know, and so we don't see what we are still seeing with our senses, the eyes. Like an X-ray, a small fracture, we are not aware of it, and we can't pick up the fracture. When the mind does not know, it's only music. We don't even know the notes. The ears hear, but the mind does not know. So our Pujya Swamiji, Swami Paramarthanandaji, gives a very nice explanation. He says, when there is a pure mind and our intellect is enlightened with Guru Shastra Vichara, you are ready for the Divya Chakshu, which Arjuna had got, is about to get, and going to utilize it. So the level 2 is not what you see, but what is important is how you see. No wonder in the previous chapter, in the last verse, in the Vibhuti Yoga, the Lord himself said, of what use is it to keep telling you about all these Vibhutis, O Arjuna? Mam ekangshena sthito jagata. The entire universe is supported in one small corner, one aspect of me. And that gives us an idea of the vastness of the Lord himself. Jagat has Desha, Kala and Vastu. The Desha aspect is now being highlighted. With this, may I now request Srimati Meenakshi Madhusudan to explain the 16th verse of the chapter Vishwarupa Darshana. Mrs. Meenakshi, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Arjuna heard Shri Krishna's glories in chapter 10. He now wants to see for himself the one universal form containing the whole creation. He requests Krishna to reveal his splendor, to which the Paramatma obliges, grants him the Divya Chakshu to see the synoptic view of the entire universe. Swami Paramarthanandaji says, this Vishwarupa Darshanam is not an extraordinary vision, but an extraordinary attitude towards the ordinary things of the creation. Meaning, the vision of the world viewed from a mind wherein there is no concept of time and space. This practical demonstration of the cosmic form of the Lord reveals that the entire universe rests in him only, that is, in one reality, the self. Arjuna is awestruck, dumbfounded by this magnificent display. Coming to the verse, Aneka bahudara vaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nantarupam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami Vishweshwara Vishwarupa. Arjuna says, I see you everywhere with countless forms, with many arms, abdomens, mouths, eyes. I see neither your beginning, nor the middle, nor the end. O Lord of the universe, O the cosmic form. Next slide, sir. Aneka bahu daravaktra netram vishvam rūpam pashyami. Arjuna says, I see the Vishwarupa of you, O Lord, which has countless, infinitely innumerable arms, hands, stomachs, faces, eyes, etc. The Rigveda, Purusha Sukta in particular, states that with his shoulders, the Supreme Lord creates all gross material worlds and the three spaces between them. The Yajurveda confirms this statement. Next slide, sir. Pashyami tvam sarvata ananta rūpam. Sarvataha is everywhere, all pervading. Whichever direction Arjuna turns, he sees the cosmic form of the Lord. The compound word ananta rūpam means innumerable forms and also unlimited forms. Nantam na madhyam na tava adim pashyami. I do not see the middle, end, or the beginning of your divine form. The gigantic form of the Lord could not be perceived nor distinguished as to its beginning, middle, or end. Arjuna expresses the vastness of the form he is experiencing by saying that the form, whichever angle he looks, he cannot discern any end to his manifestations. The Bhagavatam also quotes, the Supreme Personality has no beginning, end, or the middle, nor does he belong to a particular person or nation. He has no inside or outside. He is self-effulgent, unborn, and changeless. He is the beginning of everything, but he has no beginning. He is the one without a second. Next slide, sir. Next, Arjuna addresses the Lord as Vishweshwara, the Lord of the universe or the Supreme Master. Vishwarupam is the cosmic form or the universal form, or whose body itself is the world itself. Vishvam eva rūpam shariram yasya. Various organs of the body mentioned here should not be taken literally. They only indicate the truth from which all names and forms emanate, in which they exist and into which they merge back at the end of their temporary play on the earth. These verses show the oneness that runs through mortal beings and finite things of the world, making a single entity of them all. Sri Krishna's Vishwarupa had both pleasant forms as well as frightful, menacing forms. All creatures of the universe are a part of him. Contains peaceful as well as wrathful forms. In other words, it is the vision of all in one and one in all. Life and death are not separate events. Everything that existed in the pleasant form was violently destroyed by the same Ishvara, thereby implying creation and destruction were to be viewed in the same light, because creation cannot happen without destruction. Next slide, please. This description can be related to a paragraph appearing in The Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair, and so on. Thus, the Virat Rūpam of the Lord represents the spiritual concept of all creation being nothing more than diverse manifestations of a single essence. This vision widens our horizon and takes us beyond the earthly tumults and sorrows which so easily obsess us. A sincere seeker realizes and understands the Lord's Vishwarupam. For him, it is similar to the lifting of a veil, revealing the beauty and grandeur that lies beyond. It inspires devotion and renews one's conviction, just as we see in the coming verses, a complete transformation that happened in Arjuna's case, both in his faith and in his understanding. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
That was a very nice explanation of this 16th verse, highlighting the fact that the entire Virat, the huge form, something which we often cannot imagine, even with our limited mind thought. Now we move on to the verse 17. May I now request Srimati Vani Bhaskar to present the verse.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The 17th verse. Kiritinam gadinam chakrinancha tejo rashim sarvato diptimantam pashyamitvam durniriksham samantat diptanalarkadyutim aprameyam. So here Arjuna is seeing the Lord with great wonder in his heart and saying, Tvam pashyami, that is, I am seeing you. He's not imagining, he's not remembering or hallucinating. He says, I am seeing you directly in front of me. I see you in the form that we worship and invoke you. So, Karitinam Gadinam Chakrinanja. So I see you wearing the kiritam, that is a crown. Bhagavan is the king of the whole world. He is wearing the divine crown. And he is having a gada in his hand and a chakra, that is a disc, in the other hand. So Bhagavan has all the missiles to protect us. Gada is to take care of us of a threat which is nearby or at close quarters. And chakra is for a remote danger. Remote in terms of both place and time. It is a great weapon which travels miles and destroys the enemy. Thus, Bhagavan gives us abhaya. So in order to protect us, he has to destroy the danger of samsara. Tejo Rashim. Rashim is nothing but a heap or a collection of something. So here it is Tejo Rashim. So it is a heap of tejas, that is a heap of brilliance. It is not only the abundance of the physical light, but it is the light of consciousness, the light of wisdom, the light of knowledge. So it says, Tejo Rashim Sarvato Deeptimantam. So Deeptimantam is the light and Sarvato is everywhere. The light is spreading everywhere. He is so luminous and he is so glowing from all the sides. Within that alone is everything. Durnirikshyam samantat. Sulabham is easy. Durlabham is difficult. Durnirikshyam is something which is difficult to see. So samantat is from all sides. So Durnirikshyam samantat is Bhagavan's form was so bright and brilliant, it is very difficult to see. It was blindingly brilliant. Only with Divya Chakshu one could see him. Deepta nala kadjuti aprameyam. So Deepta nala arkadjuti. So Bhagavan's form was so brilliant and glorious as that of a fire and sun. So Anala is fire and Arka is sun. So Dyuti is equal to a conflagration. So Bhagavan is shining like fire and sun. And the vision of divinity is very rare. And it is a wonderful experience which destroys all negativity and one gains the joy of being one with Bhagavan. Aprameyam. Aprameyam is incomprehensible for senses, mind and intellect. Prameyam is that which can be comprehended or that can be known through our senses, mind and intellect. The form of Krishna cannot be comprehended in any way, says Arjuna. See, for example, in the world, if we consider in our world, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things which are known and there are a lot of things which are not known but can be known in future. But some certain things are there which cannot be known. Like if you want to know God, you have to be God. So one cannot know God as remaining as separate from him completely. It is like the salt doll which tries to measure the depth of the ocean. It can measure as long as it is intact and going down. But as it goes down, it keeps melting. And when it melts completely, it knows the depth. It knows everything. But it no longer exists to tell you or convey the message. But if it is there, then the depth is not known completely. Likewise, the greatness and the vastness of the divinity cannot be comprehended. So it is aprameya. So here Arjuna is describing Krishna. Thank you so much. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you for a nice presentation. This verse further highlights the fact that there is vastness as well as the effulgence of more than what we see as the sun. We can't see the sun straight. Imagine what Krishna would have shown to Arjuna with all that effulgence from all the directions. It would be really blinding if we have to look at it as a vision, not as the attitude. May I now request Mrs. Vasanta to kindly go ahead and explain the 18th verse. Mrs. Vasanta, please.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. This is a very special verse that marks a major shift in Arjuna's understanding. Let us read the sloka. Tvamaksharam paramam veditavyam tvamasya vishvasya param nidhanam tvam avyayah shashvata dharma gopta sanatanastvam purusho mato me. You are the supreme imperishable one to be known by all. You are the ultimate support of this universe. You are the eternal protector of the eternal dharma. I read you as the eternal Purusha. Arjuna has transitioned from seeing Krishna as a friend to Ekarupa Krishna to Vishwarupa Krishna. As he is perceiving Krishna's glorious Vishwarupa form, Arjuna has an epiphany. Now it hits Arjuna like a ton of bricks that Krishna is none other than the ultimate Brahman that he has learnt about in his Gurukula through the Upanishads. The same Brahman that Krishna has alluded to earlier on. Thunderstruck, Arjuna starts singing Krishna's glories as he absorbs the magnitude of his realization. Tvam paramam aksharam. In Bhagavad Gita sloka 8.8, chapter 8, verse 1, Krishna has already told Arjuna, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So excited about his new realization, Arjuna tells Krishna, you are the supreme imperishable one. Paramam Aksharam, or Nirguna Brahman. Having seen beyond the Maya of our world with his Divya Chakshu, Arjuna now realizes that Nirguna Brahman should be known by all, Veditavyam. Shankaracharya in his Bhasha also emphasizes that seekers of liberation or mumukshus should strive to know Brahman. Tvam param nidhanam asya vishvasya. You are the ultimate support or refuge. Param nidhanam of this universe. Nidhanam also means receptacle, and so the Lord can be considered the ultimate receptacle or substratum in which the universe rests. The word ultimate here refers to the fact that the Lord is the sole support of the entire universe and has no support to depend on himself. Tvam avyaya. You are unchanging. Avyaya. Unaffected by time. Kala titam. You are the decayless, changeless reality. So the Lord is the unchanging substratum that supports the entire universe. Notice that while Arjuna is seeing Saguna Ishvara in Vishwarupa form, in this verse so far he is describing Nirguna Brahman. Then finally he ends with Tvam Shashvata Dharma Gopta. You are the guardian or Gopta of the eternal or Shashvata Dharma. Because the Lord is changeless and eternal himself, and he is Shrishtikarta, he is the only one who can protect the eternal Dharma of the eternal universe. Dharma here means rhythm and harmony in the universe through physical and moral laws. Notice that Arjuna is now talking about eternal Saguna Ishvara, his Srishti, the eternal universe, and the universe's eternal laws. They're all eternal in the Vyavaharika sense, irrespective of whether they are manifest or unmanifest. Swami Paramathananda points out that the Lord even protects the universe by taking on avatars. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. That is to protect good and destroy evil. Finally, we have Tvam Sanatana Purusho Mato Me. In my opinion, Mato Me, you are the ever-present, everlasting Sanatana and all-pervading Purusha. So Arjuna ends the verse by restating with conviction that Krishna is indeed the eternal consciousness principle or Nirguna Brahman. Hari Om.
It was a nice presentation, and this was very important verse, particularly because of the fact that there has been a mention of the Nirguna Brahma. We should now specify again for repetition and to understand again that Aksharam is the imperishable Saguna, and that is the understanding of the Avyakta form. Nirguna, of course, is Brahman. Param Nidhanam is the supportless support. That, like a mobile has supported on a table, then it's resting on the earth. But where the space is supporting the entire universe. So that Param Nidhanam is a supportless support. Avyam is the unchangeable, unaffected. Vishwadharam is the ultimate substratum. It is eternal, Shaswatam. And the only thing ever to be known is this Purusha, which is all pervading. And the reason why Arjuna is bringing it out is probably he has read it in the scriptures, but he's probably not understood it yet. May I now request Dr. Anupama to explain the 19th verse.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, verse 19. Anadi Madhyantam Ananta Viryam Ananta Bahum Shashisurya Netram Pashyami Tvam Deepta Hutasha Bhaktram Swatejasa Vishvam Idam Tapantam. Next slide, sir. Until now, Arjuna expressed wonderment, awe, and admiration of the Lord. His attention is now drawn to the face of Vishwarupa Ishvara, Ananta Bhaktram. He perceives the sun and moon as the eyes of the Lord and the mouth as Agni Tattvam. It is seen devouring and destroying everything. His sense of awe gradually changes to fear. The seed of this transition from wonderment to fear is indicated by this word, Deepta Hutasha Bhaktra. The Lord's mouth appears like a blazing flame, devouring Bhishma, Drona, and others. Bhaktram means mouth or face. Hutasha means fire. Hutam Ashnati iti, that which consumes oblations. Deepta Hutasha is a well-kindled flame. The radiant heat or energy of this huge, fiery, and frightening mouth scorches the whole universe. Swatejasa Vishvam Idam Tapantam. This symbolizes the truth that the heat of fire, being Kala Tattvam, gradually consumes us. Malo Asmi Lokaha Krayakrita Apakshiyate. Arjuna says, Pashyami Tvam, I see you as Anadi Madhyantam, limitless, infinite, meaning omnipresent. Ananta Viryam, Natva Virasya Anta Asti iti. Your power is infinite. You are omnipotent. Ananta Bahum, infinite arms. Remember, all the limbs belonging to all the people belong to the Lord alone. Shashi Surya Netram. Shashi is the moon, Surya is the sun, and Netram means eyes. To Arjuna, Now the sun and moon symbolize the eyes of the Lord. This clearly indicates that Vishwa Ishvara is the very universe. The sun and moon are illuminating principles. The sun, being the presiding deity of the eye, represents the eye of the Lord. Blessed by Lord Krishna with Divya Chakshu, the ability to perceive the whole universe as the very body of the Lord, Arjuna is now aware of the destructive aspect of Kala Tattvam, represented here as Deepta Hutasha Vaktra. Seeing Bhagwan as the Layakarta now frightens Arjuna. This Vyavaharika Prapancha, we must accept, is riddled with pairs of opposite principles like birth and death, good and evil, success and failure, and so on. We have to understand them as inseparable or complementary features, or else Vishwarupa Ishvara could be a source of fear, especially for the immature, ignorant, and the Ahankara, Mamakara Yukta people. Thank you, sir.
It's a very nice explanation. And the highlight of this verse is a little shift from the vastness of what was being shown to the Kala aspect. The sun and the moon being the eyes of the so-called body of this huge Lord, and Agni Devata being the Devata of the mouth, and Agni is something that can absorb and consume everything. Now comes the Kala aspect in this particular verse. We now move to the next verse, which is the 20th verse. May I now request Dr. Ahalya to kindly present this verse.
Namaste. Hari Om. The next verse, the 20th verse, is like this. Dhyava prithivyor idamantaram hi vyaptam tvayaikena dishascha sarvaha drishtvaadbhutam rūpamugram tavedam lokatrayam pravyatitam mahatman. The word meaning is the next slide, sir. The word meaning is idam antaram, this space. Dhyava prithivyoho, between the earth and the other heavenly bodies. Cha sarvaha disha, as well as all the 10 directions. He vyaptam, are indeed pervaded. Tvaya ekena, by you alone. Drishtva, having seen. Idam adbhutam, this wonderful. Ugram rūpam, and the fierce form. Tava, of yours. Lokatrayam, all the 3 worlds. Pravyatitam, are frightened. The next slide, sir. Arjuna is still a bit of mixed emotions. We heard in the last verses about how he was feeling, and he is gradually understanding the Vishwarupatva, the Vishwavyapakatva of Bhagavan. In fact, this is not just at the level of buddhi alone, but this is an experiential one, as reflected by the range of emotions that he undergoes, wonder, fear, etc. We also know that Arjuna still doubted if his belief was steady and merited enough to learn Adhyatma at the beginning of the chapter. He felt the need for a measure of personal experience that would clear these doubts. Hence, the Lord embarked upon teaching the Vishwarupa. Arjuna realizes that whatever exists here and anywhere else is the Lord himself. The space between the earth and heavenly bodies, antariksham, is pervaded by none other than him. Tvaya ekena, only you. The 10 directions are also pervaded by his presence alone. Arjuna confesses that he is able to appreciate this wonderful form of Bhagavan as he now has an expansive vision and is not just looking from the simple personalized vision. As we often say, Ayam nijah paro veti ganana lagu chetasam udara charitanam tu vasudaiva kutumbakam. As we grow in thought and mind, the seeming differences of the external world ceases and everything seems as our own by the Laukika perspective. From the Paramarthika perspective, when we are able to experience the Vishwarupa Ishwaratva and that he alone is the cause for everything, then everything around starts appearing as his reflection. The next slide, sir. Arjuna has not only seen the good and the glorious aspect of Lord, but has also seen the Ugra Rupa. He has seen Bhagavan as also the principle of death and destruction. He is the Srishti Sthiti, but more importantly, the Laya Karaka. This brings in fear as much as he is in wonderment. He further says that for the Ugra form, Bhagavan brings in fear in all the three worlds. It is easy to accept all things that are bright and beautiful as Bhagavan himself. But how do we accept the other form? This requires a change in attitude, surrender, faith, and Chitta Shuddhi. Only then can the Tattva of Vishwarupa be grasped and experienced. Vishwarupa, in that sense, is a grand illustration of such an attitude. Rationally, I can understand, the next slide, sir. Rationally, I can understand the various manifestations as him alone, as per the Karya Karana Sambandha, the cause and effect theory. When Bhagavan is the cause, the effect must also have him. So the world is an amsha of him. Poetically, Deviji says it extremely beautifully put. Jiva jada rūpa prapanchavanadavudo ಆವರಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಮೊಳನೆರೆದು ಮಿಹುದಂತೆ ಭಾವ ಕೊಳಪಡದಂತೆ ಅಳತೆಗಳವೆಡೆದಂತೆ ಆ ವಿಶೇಷಕ್ಕೆ ಮಣಿಯು. He brings in the concept of jiva, jada, and the entire prapancha. All this have that one principle. And what is that principle? Bhava olapadadante. It is changeless. Alate galavedadante. It is immeasurable. A visheshake. Such a Vishwarupa Darshana is what the poet is here talking of. Devotionally, just believe by what I have inherited, what my gurus have told, what I have seen in tradition, what my parents followed. Anur Prihat Krishastulo Gunavan Nirguno Mahan. With all these, we can also, like Arjuna, say, Mahatman, idam antaram dyava prativyoho cha sarvaha dishaha hi vyaptam tvaya ekena drishtva idam adbhutam ugram rūpam tava lokatrayam pravyatitam. So may this concept seep in deeper for us to be able to grasp the tattva of Vishwarupa. Thank you, sir. Namaste.
Thank you for a nice explanation of this verse. We now see that, and we understand even from the past classes, that Ishvara being the Karana, Jagat is the Karya. And we must go back to the last class where our teacher explained so well. When we say I am, I is the consciousness or Chit, and am is the existence or the Sat principle, which is highlighted in this part of the Gita. So Vishwarupa Darshana is always available. The problem is that we are still with an ordinary vision, and we have to change over to the extraordinary attitude, which is the Divya Chakshu. There is a shift of these verses explaining what is the appreciation of the world, the Jagat, which is actually the Vishwarupa, and have a sense of wonderment. Then there is the good, bad, and ugly, and the fear that sets in, and that also gives us bhakti. Only by reduction of dvesha, by expansion of the mind, which is totality, is the chitta vishalatva, which is what gives us the Vishwarupa Darshana. In the next class, from the verses 21 to 25, there would be a further understanding of what is happening and this clarity that unless we change our attitude, we don't move on in our spiritual progress. May I now request Kumari Dhimahi to chant today's verses, the verse 16 to 20. Kumari Dhimahi, please.
Hariom Sadgurubhyom Namaha. Aneka bahodara vaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato nanta rūpam nantam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami Vishweshwara Vishwarupa dinam tadinam chakrinam cha tejo rashim sarvato deeptimantam pashyami tvam durnireksham samantat deeptanalaarkajutim aprameyam twamaksharam paramam veditavyam twamasya vishvasya param nidanam twamavyaya shashvata dharma gupta sanatanastvam purusho mato me anadimadhyantam anantaviryam अनन्तबाहुं शशिसूर्यनेत्रं पश्यामि त्वां दीप्तहुताशवक्त्रं स्वतेजसा विश्वमिदं तपन्तम् या वा पृथिव्योरिदम् अन्तरं हि व्याप्तं त्वयैकेन दिशश्च सर्वाः दृष्ट्वद्भुतं रूपमुग्रं तवेदं लोकत्रयं प्रव्यतत्वं महात्मन्. Hari Om Sadgurubhyom Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, dear Dhimahi, for the chanting. It was very nice. God bless you, my dear. Our sincere gratitude to Team Param Vedanta. Really appreciate for bringing these verses on a platter to us. Thank you, dear Dr. Ravi Shankar, for your key insights. And thank you to all listeners. Our next session is on Friday, 18th February at 6:45 p.m. in Indian Standard Time. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Namo Namaha.